Ethan stood tall, his gaze fixed on the horizon as the distant sounds of battle filled the air. The planet he now called home had seen many wars, but none like the one threatening to tear it apart now. The alien queen Lyra was all that stood between the kingdom and complete destruction, and somehow Ethan, an ordinary human soldier, had become the key to her survival. He didn't remember how he ended up here. It had all happened so fast. One moment he was a soldier on a different planet, fighting for a cause he didn't truly understand, and the next, he was standing in front of a queen whose people believed in her strength. Yet she had lost so much. The rival faction, led by the ruthless General Cora, was determined to seize the throne and destroy her bloodline. Ethan had been sent to protect her. His mission had been simple: protect Queen Lyra at all costs. Yet as he stood next to her now, it had become so much more. Lyra wasn't just a queen. She was a beacon of hope for her people. And for Ethan, she was someone who had shown him kindness, compassion, and strength that no one else ever had. "Are you ready?" Lyra's voice was soft but full of authority. She stood beside him, her royal armor gleaming under the twin suns. Her face, though young, carried the weight of years of responsibility. She had lost so much, but she had never given up. Ethan turned to face her. His heart, which had been hardened by the endless battles of his past, softened for a brief moment. He nodded, gripping his sword tightly. "I'm ready. We fight together." They had been through so much already. The initial skirmishes had been brutal, but this battle would decide everything. The throne, the people, the future of Lyra's royal bloodline. It all depended on this final confrontation. Ethan had fought in wars across the galaxy, but nothing compared to the weight of standing beside Lyra now. The enemy forces were massive. Ethan had seen the size of Cora's army. It was almost overwhelming. Thousands of soldiers, armored and ruthless, stood ready to strike. But they hadn't counted on Ethan. They hadn't counted on him fighting for something greater than just survival. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, the battle began. The sound of clashing swords, blasters firing, and the roar of war echoed through the air. Ethan charged forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He fought with every ounce of strength he had, his mind focused on protecting the queen. Lyra was not one to stay behind. She fought with fierce determination, leading her forces from the front. She was a warrior in her own right. Her movements were graceful yet deadly, each strike from her blade a testament to her strength. Ethan could see it in her eyes. She was fighting for more than just herself. She was fighting for her people, her family, and the future of her royal line. The tide of battle was turning in their favor, but Ethan knew the hardest part was still ahead. As the enemy pressed on, a large force led by General Cora herself appeared. The ground shook as their war machines moved forward, firing blasts of energy that tore through the battlefield. "Fall back," Ethan shouted to the soldiers around him. They needed a new strategy. The enemy had brought out their heavy artillery, and it was only a matter of time before they overwhelmed the royal forces. Lyra's voice rang out through the chaos. "We won't fall back. We fight to the end!" Her determination filled Ethan with a sense of purpose. He couldn't let her down. They couldn't let her down. Together they would stand strong. As the enemy closed in, Ethan noticed something. General Cora was not at the front of the battle. Instead, she was circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He had to stop her. If Cora reached Lyra, the queen would be vulnerable. Ethan pushed through the chaos, cutting down enemy soldiers as he made his way toward the general. His heart pounded in his chest, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Every step he took was one closer to the fight that could end it all. Then he saw her, Cora, standing tall and proud, her black armor gleaming in the dim light. Her eyes locked onto Ethan's and a smile spread across her face. She was ready for him. Human. Cora's voice was cold, mocking. "You think you can stop me? You are nothing compared to my army." Ethan's grip tightened on his sword. "I'm not here to stop you," he said through gritted teeth. "I'm here to end this." The two warriors collided in a flurry of strikes. Ethan's sword met Cora's in a clash of steel. Each blow she landed was powerful, but Ethan was faster, more determined. He could feel the weight of his past battles, his sacrifices, all fueling him now. This was no longer just about survival. This was about protecting Lyra, protecting her kingdom and securing a future for her royal bloodline. Cora's smile faltered as Ethan pressed on, his strikes relentless. But she wasn't finished. With a swift motion, she swept his legs out from under him, sending Ethan crashing to the ground. He grunted in pain but quickly recovered, rolling to his feet. Cora's blade came down toward him with a deadly force. In a split second, Ethan acted. He twisted, dodging the blow just in time. His sword found its mark, slicing through Cora's armor. She let out a strangled cry, stumbling backward in surprise. "You should have stayed out of this," Cora hissed, her voice filled with venom. But Ethan wasn't done. With a final powerful strike, he disarmed Cora and forced her to the ground. He stood over her, breathing heavily, his heart racing. "You've lost," Ethan said, his voice steady but fierce. "It's over." Cora looked up at him, her eyes filled with fury. "This is not the end, human. You may have won today, but you have no idea what's coming." Ethan didn't respond. He turned, his heart heavy as he made his way back to Lyra. The battle was far from over, but they had won this fight. For now. As the sun began to set, Lyra stood at the heart of the battlefield, surrounded by her soldiers. Her gaze met Ethan's, and a sense of relief washed over her. He had done it. He had saved her. But Ethan's relief was short-lived. He collapsed to the ground, his strength spent from the battle. Blood poured from his wounds, and he struggled to stay conscious. He had given everything he had, and now he wasn't sure if he would survive. Lyra rushed to his side, her hands trembling as she knelt beside him. She could feel the weight of what had happened, what they had both sacrificed. Ethan had fought not just for her kingdom, but for her life, for her royal line. "Stay with me, Ethan," Lyra whispered, her voice breaking. "Please stay with me." He looked up at her, his vision blurring. "I'm not going anywhere." But the blood was still flowing, and Ethan knew the fight wasn't over yet. The future of the royal line was uncertain, and so was his own future. But one thing was clear. Queen Lyra would never forget the sacrifice he had made for her. He had given his blood for her royal line, and now she would make sure he was hers forever. Ethan woke up slowly, his vision blurred. The pain was still there, lingering in every part of his body. He felt warmth beside him, and when his eyes cleared, he saw Queen Lyra sitting next to him, her hand gently resting on his. The royal palace's soft light filtered in through the window, casting a peaceful glow on her face. Her gaze was fixed on him, filled with both concern and determination. "You're awake," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying relief. "How do you feel?" Ethan blinked, trying to sit up, but his body protested. The injuries from the battle, deep cuts, bruises, and exhaustion, were still fresh. But there was something stronger now, something burning in his chest, and it wasn't just from the pain. It was her. "I've felt worse," he muttered, offering her a small smile despite the soreness. "But this is different." Lyra smiled back, her eyes softening as she helped him sit up. "You fought for me, Ethan. You gave everything, even your blood. No one has ever done that for me." He looked at her, his heart still racing from their close call on the battlefield. "I fought for more than just you, Lyra. I fought for your people, your kingdom, for the future. But I never expected any of this." Lyra's expression grew serious, her hand squeezing his. "You're part of my future now. I want you to know that, no matter what happens from here on out." Ethan didn't know how to respond. He had come to this foreign world, a soldier with no ties, no connections, no purpose. But now it was different. Lyra was more than just a queen to him. She was someone he would do anything for. Someone who had shown him that there was more to life than just fighting. And somehow deep down he knew she felt the same way. Days passed as Ethan recovered from his injuries, and with each passing moment, the bond between him and Lyra grew stronger. They would spend hours together, talking about everything and nothing, learning about each other's past, hopes, and dreams. The weight of the crown she wore, the responsibilities of being queen, had always seemed heavy to her. But with Ethan by her side, it felt a little lighter. However, the peace was short-lived. Lyra's enemies were not done. Though General Cora had been defeated, her allies still lurked in the shadows, plotting their next move. And as much as Lyra tried to reassure Ethan that the kingdom was safe, he knew better. A kingdom at war never truly rests. One evening, as the sky turned orange with the setting sun, the royal council called for a meeting. Lyra, now fully recovered and stronger than before, sat at the head of the long table, her eyes scanning the room as the council members discussed their next steps. Ethan stood beside her, his presence a constant reminder of the sacrifices they had both made. "We cannot afford to wait any longer," Councillor Varick said, his voice low and stern. "The rival factions are regrouping. We need to strike now before they have the chance to gather more strength. I agree, Lyra responded firmly, her voice steady. But we will not make the same mistakes we made before. This time, we will have the element of surprise. We will strike fast and we will strike hard. The council members nodded, but Ethan's mind was elsewhere. He had been trained to fight battles, but this was different. There was more at stake now than just his own life. There were people depending on him, depending on them. And though his bond with Lyra had grown stronger, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The path they were about to walk was filled with uncertainty. That night, as the palace grew quiet, Ethan and Lyra walked together through the royal gardens. The moonlight bathed the flowers in silver and the air was cool and fresh. I don't want to lose you, Ethan said, his voice quiet. Not after everything we've been through. You've given me more than I ever expected, but I know what's coming, and I fear I won't be enough. Lyra stopped walking and turned to face him, her expression soft but unwavering. Ethan, she began, her hand gently brushing his cheek. You've already given everything. More than anyone could ask. You've shed your blood for me, for my kingdom. You've proven yourself a warrior and a man of honor, but you are more than just that to me. Ethan's heart raced as she spoke, each word carrying a weight that both comforted and terrified him. What do you mean? Lyra stepped closer, her voice low, filled with emotion. I mean that you are not just a protector to me, Ethan. You are my equal, my partner. And I will not let anything take you away from me. Not now, not ever. He felt his breath catch in his chest. He had always believed in loyalty and duty and sacrifice. But in that moment, Lyra's words shifted something inside him. They weren't just words. They were a promise. You don't have to do this alone, Ethan whispered, taking her hand in his. I'm with you, always. The moment between them hung in the air like a delicate thread. It wasn't just about the battles they had fought together, but the one they were about to face. Lyra's enemies were powerful and the war wasn't over. But in that moment, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of purpose. The following days were filled with preparations for the final battle. Lyra's forces gathered, ready to march into enemy territory. Ethan stood by her side, not just as a warrior but as a symbol of the unity they had forged. The stakes were high and both knew that the battle ahead could mean life or death. As they stood on the battlefield once more, Ethan looked over at Lyra. Her gaze was steady, her determination clear. She had always been a queen, but now she was something more. She was a leader, a woman who had fought not just for her throne, but for the people she loved. And as the battle began, Ethan was ready. Not just to fight, but to protect the future they had started to build together. The promise Lyra had made to him, the promise that they would face whatever came next side by side, was a bond he would never break. The battle raged on, the clash of swords and the roar of blasters filling the air. But through it all, Ethan knew one thing for certain. No matter the cost, no matter the danger, Lyra's royal bloodline would not fall. And neither would their love. The final push came at dawn. The enemy forces, though strong, were no match for the united front Lyra and Ethan had formed. With each strike, with each victory, Ethan could feel his heart swelling with pride. He wasn't just fighting for Lyra anymore. He was fighting for a future they would share together, a future that no one could take from them. As the last of the enemy forces retreated, Lyra stood beside Ethan, her hand in his. The battle was over, but their journey was far from finished. They had made it through together, and together, they would build the future they both dreamed of. You've kept your promise, Lyra whispered, her voice filled with both relief and love. Now we have our future, together. Ethan smiled, his heart full. Forever, he replied, knowing that no matter what came next, they would face it together.